Life doesn't whisper, it roars, it collides, it stirs up dust, emotions, and expectations. It moves fast and expects you to keep up. But even within all that noise, there exists a kind of peace. Not outside of it, but in the very heart of it, because a calm mind doesn't escape the storm. It learns to stay centered within it. It doesn't reject the chaos. It learns to hold it, to breathe through it, to remain rooted. Stillness isn't an escape. It's the strength to stand grounded while everything around you spins. It's not about tuning out, it's about tuning in. The myth of being seen. We're often taught that to connect, we must be the loudest voice in the room, that attention equals value, that extroversion is the path to being liked, but the quiet mind redefines what connection truly means. It doesn't chase the spotlight, it shares presence, real, grounded, unforced. It doesn't perform, it listens, it notices the unspoken, it connects without theatrics. And in doing so, it builds relationships that are fewer, but richer, conversations that are shorter, but more sincere. Love that's understated, but deeply reliable. Because connection isn't how many people cheer for you. It's who still listens when no one's watching. Many quiet people learned early on that being themselves wasn't enough. So they learned to adapt, to smile louder, to talk faster, to take up space that didn't feel natural. And it worked for a while, until one day it didn't, until the mask grew heavier, until the laughter felt disconnected, until they didn't recognize themselves in the mirror anymore. There comes a moment, a breaking point, where being accepted at the cost of yourself stops feeling like belonging. And that's the pivot. When you stop apologizing for your depth, stop twisting to fit expectations, stop shrinking and stretching to match a world that doesn't understand you, because pretending brings people closer, but not to you, only to a version of you that was never real. What stillness really means. Stillness isn't the absence of noise. It's the clarity that emerges when you no longer let noise control you. It doesn't mean thoughts disappear. It means you no longer believe every one of them. The quiet mind says, not every thought deserves a reaction. Not every emotion must be obeyed. Not every fear is a prophecy. It's not about suppression, it's about observation. Not rejection, but discernment. True peace isn't when the world quiets down. It's when your spirit stops trying to fight it. The fear of boredom. In a world obsessed with stimulation, being still can feel dangerous. Like you're falling behind, like you're missing out, like you're being forgotten. But what if boredom isn't emptiness? What if it's an invitation to reconnect, to hear your own thoughts, to follow them to places that constant activity would never allow? The quiet mind embraces this threshold. It welcomes the slow morning walks, the long pauses between words, the deep breaths before a response. It knows that creativity doesn't shout. It whispers, that insight doesn't crash in. It arrives quietly, once everything else calms down. So the quiet person learns to trust the boredom, to sit with it, to wait for what it reveals. Stop explaining yourself. There comes a time when you stop explaining why you're quiet. You stop pre-warning others that you need time alone. You stop labeling your boundaries as weird or too much. You stop giving disclaimers for simply being yourself because the people meant to walk with you. They won't ask you to justify your calm. They'll feel it, they'll respect it, they'll speak your pace. You won't need to shout for them to hear you. You won't need subtitles for your silence. And the ones who need you to be louder to understand you, they were never meant to stay. The wisdom of the quiet one. Here's what's often missed. The person watching from the corner, they may be the one holding the deepest insight, the one who doesn't speak unless necessary. Might be carrying emotional intelligence. Others haven't even tapped into, the one who withdraw. Might be the only one truly paying attention. Stillness isn't absence, it's filtration. It strips away what's unimportant and leaves behind what matters. That's why the quiet ones often see more. Because they aren't distracted by performance. They're focused on truth, the power of presence. At the end of every performance, after the applause dies down, when the lights dim and the crowd moves on, what remains presence? The quality of your attention, the integrity behind your choices, the quiet strength of your awareness. You don't need to overpower to have influence. You don't need to dominate to have an impact. You just need to show up. Genuinely, fully, quietly. Presence doesn't chase. It invites, it doesn't command. It calms, it doesn't force. It models. And when you embody that presence, people begin to settle around you. They soften, they begin to hear themselves again. Because your silence gave them permission, returning to yourself. So return to your natural rhythm, to your steady breath, to your center. Let the world race by if it must. Let it mistake volume for substance, speed for success, attention for worth. That is not your path. You weren't made to compete with noise. You were made to anchor in the middle of it, to remember what others forget, to live in a way that realigns you with what truly matters. The strength of invisibility. If you've ever felt unseen because of your stillness, know this: there is power in not being immediately understood. There is freedom in not being easily labeled. There is clarity in needing less external validation. You are not falling behind. You are not too quiet. You are not lacking. You are a refuge, a stabilizing force, a quiet mirror for those who forgot how to breathe. You don't need to be the center of the room. You are the grounding energy that holds it all together. The world teaches us to be impressive, to be noticed, to be loud. But you are here to be real. Not louder, just truer. So stay close to your stillness. Hold fast to your pace. Trust your silence. It is not a weakness. It is not a limitation. It is your superpower, your compass, your gift. Not just to yourself, but to everyone lucky enough to feel your quiet presence. We often assume that stillness is passive, that silence is a void, that the quiet ones in the room are simply missing something. But stillness is not lack. It's clarity, it's restraint, intention, awareness. It is a deep, unwavering presence that does not need to announce itself in order to exist. And this is where the world misunderstands power, because true strength does not demand the spotlight. It doesn't rely on volume to validate its truth. It simply is, steady, observant, and anchored. We live in an era addicted to attention, where visibility is mistaken for influence, where speaking often is seen as leadership, where the loudest voice tends to lead the room, even if it's not the wisest one. But those with quiet minds know something deeper. They know that you can lead through calm, that you can guide without shouting, that your presence, when grounded, can speak louder than words ever could, not by overpowering, but by modeling something different. The quiet mind watches the world move quickly and chooses to move slowly. It listens before it speaks. It reflects before it reacts. It sees the noise, and rather than getting lost in it, it pauses. It doesn't rush to fill silence with words. It doesn't need to. It understands that stillness is not inaction. It's precision. It's knowing when to speak and when not to, when to act, and when to simply observe. Eventually, those who live from this space realize something profound. That peace is not something you find in the world. It's something you create within. And once you taste that peace, you stop trading it for things that are loud but empty. You stop chasing validation that fades the moment it's achieved. You stop compromising your center just to be accepted by a room that doesn't even see you. You start to recognize how much energy you've spent bending yourself into someone you never were, trying to be enough for others, trying to be more expressive, more social, more on and all of it. Slowly wears down your spirit because pretending is expensive, and nothing costs more than a life lived out of alignment. There comes a moment, subtle but decisive, when you no longer want to perform for approval, you no longer need to defend your need for solitude, you no longer feel guilty for not being who others expected you to be. That moment is liberation. It's the beginning of wholeness, of choosing truth. Even if it means walking alone for a while because the truth is worth it, even when it's quiet, the quiet mind begins to see what others miss, that every thought isn't a fact, that not all emotions are directives. That fear, while loud, is often lying. Stillness gives you space to investigate your inner world, not to escape it, but to see it clearly. To sit with a thought and ask, is this even mine? To notice an impulse and wonder, what's underneath this? This is the discipline of the quiet mind. It's not disengaged. It's discerning. In a culture obsessed with immediacy, the quiet mind values process. In a world hungry for stimulation, it finds richness in the ordinary. A long walk, a deep breath, a moment of stillness before answering. These aren't escapes. They are returns. Returns to self. Returns to presence. Returns to a world that isn't ruled by urgency, but by awareness. Eventually, you start to protect your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. You stop explaining your stillness. You stop apologizing for your pace. You stop offering disclaimers before your silence. You realize that the people who matter won't need you to translate your nature. They'll already understand it. They'll feel it, in your energy, in your sincerity, in the way your presence steadies the room. And those who don't? They were never meant to stay. Stillness reveals what noise conceals. It helps you separate the true from the temporary. It shows you who's aligned with your essence, and who only liked the version of you that performed. In stillness, relationships deepen or dissolve. Not because you push people away, but because the clarity you hold now filters what you allow near. You no longer chase belonging through compromise. You invite it through authenticity. And that invitation, while not for everyone, is magnetic to the right ones. The quiet mind isn't trying to stand out. It's trying to be real. It's not chasing identity. It's uncovering it. And the more you settle into that authenticity, the less you need to be explained. You become a mirror for others, not by preaching, not by teaching, but by embodying something rare, a calm that isn't performative, a depth that isn't loud, a presence that speaks before you ever say a word. You begin to understand the paradox. The more aligned you become, the less you need to prove. The more aware you are, the less reactive you are. The more peace you cultivate, the more power you hold. Quietly, steadily, unapologetically. And while the world continues spinning fast, you slow down. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise. You see that life isn't found in the rush. It's found in the pause, in the breath, in the noticing, in the space between reactions, where choice lives, where peace begins. Here's what many miss. That true influence doesn't come from dominance. It comes from presence, from a grounded, rooted stillness that doesn't need to control others, because it's already mastered itself. This is leadership. Not performance, not perfection, but presence. The kind of presence that walks into a room and shifts the energy. Not because it demands attention, but because it radiates something rare. Inner calm, clarity, self-trust. You don't have to be the loudest voice to lead. You just have to be the most aligned. And when you live from that space, people begin to notice something in you. They may not be able to name it, but they feel it. They soften in your presence. They slow down. They breathe easier. Not because you asked them to, but because your presence gives them permission. So many are starved for depth, for honesty, for slowness, but they don't know where to find it until they meet someone who lives it. Someone who doesn't rush to respond, who listens without needing to fix, who speaks only when the words are necessary, and holds silence when they are not. Someone who isn't trying to impress you, but to be real with you. And in that simplicity, they offer something profound. Safety. That's the quiet mind's greatest gift. Not just what it offers you, but what it offers the world. A space to exhale. A reminder that you don't have to keep performing. That you can stop, breathe, reflect, and remember who you were before the noise took over. Because stillness is not about escaping life. It's about engaging with it more consciously. It's about choosing your inputs, guarding your energy, and living at a pace that honors your nervous system, not just your to-do list. Let the world be fast. Let it confuse stimulation for meaning. Let it chase every trend and echo every opinion. You are not here to join that race. You are here to root, to ground, to build something internal that cannot be shaken by external chaos. You are not falling behind. You are returning to something sacred, something ancient, something powerful. Yourself. And the most beautiful part? You no longer need to convince anyone of your worth. You've remembered it. You've reclaimed it. You've embodied it. Quietly, deeply, fully. And that, in a world of noise, is the loudest truth of all. If this hit home, drop a comment. Subscribe to The Thought Foundry. Take care of your mind, and I'll see you in the next dive.